Hello, dear friends. Today is July 27th, 2025, and this is the traditional review of the map of combat operations. Today, both the Pokrovsk direction, the Konstantinivka direction, the Siversk direction, and the Kupiansk direction are witnessing a huge number of changes. We also have news from the Sumy direction and the Orikhiv direction, which we will discuss and review in this video. Before we begin, as always, I would sincerely ask you to subscribe to the channel. As you know, your subscription greatly supports the channel's development. And if this is not the first time you are watching our videos, and you are not yet subscribed, please subscribe. This will greatly support the channel's development. I thank all subscribers. Let's start as usual with the Kherson direction. No serious changes are noted here today. Yesterday, there were strikes in the areas of Belozerka, Antonovka, and Pervomaiske. Ukrainian armed forces positions were also attacked in the Dniprovska and Sadov areas, and attacks from the Russian side were repelled in the Pridniprovsk area. Here, attacks were launched by the Russian army. Meanwhile, Russian forces were subjected to attacks in the areas of Zaplava, Oleshki, Pitstepne, and Kozachi Lageria. Other than that, the map here has not changed. FPV drones and artillery operate daily along the entire line. We move on with you to the Orikhiv direction. Here, localized combat operations are taking place in the Malaya Tokmachka area. According to some reports, Russian forces are gradually advancing in this area. And once again, conflicting information comes from pro-Ukrainian sources stating that the Russians have been completely expelled from here. We are awaiting confirmations from this part of the combat operations area to make changes. And we move on to the changes in this part of the combat operations area. We move to the town of Kamyanka. Here, it is reported that Russian forces have already straightened the front line between the town of Kamyanka and Stepov. This entire area has already come under Russian control, and Russian forces, along with some reconnaissance and sabotage groups, have begun to enter the town of Stepnohirsk and are pursuing the Ukrainian armed forces. They are also gradually advancing in the town of Plavny, and according to some reports, this pocket has been completely cleared and has come under the control of the Russian army. We are waiting for additional materials here to make changes to the map. All changes marked in red today have come under the control of the Russian armed forces. There is also information indicating that Russian forces are gradually attacking Ukrainian armed forces positions in the Novoekonomichne area and are gradually moving towards this town, but no serious changes have been recorded yet. All information comes in the form of news. We move on with you to the South Donetsk direction. No serious changes were recorded here today, but there is news that Russian forces are attacking Ukrainian armed forces positions in the following towns: Tymirivka, Novoekonomichne, Kamishevaka, Malivka. Ukrainian armed forces positions are also being attacked in the areas of Oleksandrogirka, Andriivka, Klintsova, and Zeleny High. As for Zeleny High and Oleksandrogirka, let's move to Oleksandrogirka. Here, Russian forces have already managed to consolidate on the outskirts of this town, and assault operations may begin in the coming days. But this information comes as news that the Ukrainian side does not acknowledge, and the Russian side has not yet provided any video materials confirming the entry of Russian forces into this town. And there is information from the town of Zeleny High. The Ukrainian side acknowledges that Russian forces have consolidated on the eastern outskirts. The Russian side reports that assault operations are ongoing in this town, and the Russians are gradually advancing in it. But no video materials confirming the expansion of the control zone have been provided today either. And we move on with you to the rest of the map to the towns of Dakhne Novoekonomichne, Zeleny Kut, Oleksivka, and Orikhovo. In these areas, localized combat operations have been conducted. Russian forces are moving from these four towns in the direction of the town of Orikhovo, as well as in the direction of the town of Filia. This is how the Russian army is advancing. As you know, the pocket between the town of Orikhovo and Dakhne is gradually being cleared here. And regarding Orikhovo itself, attacks are being carried out on Ukrainian armed forces positions. According to some reports, the Russians are trying to bypass Ukrainian armed forces positions from the southern flank, as there was already a bypass from the north. And they are now trying to force the Ukrainian armed forces to abandon their positions, as the Russians were unable to take this town head-on. The same applies to the town of Muravka. Russian forces were unable to take this town head-on. And now it is reported that from Kotlyarivka, Russian forces are bypassing this town from the south. We are waiting for additional video materials to make changes to the map. As you know, after the loss of Orikhovo and Muravka, Russian forces will naturally move towards the town of Novopavlivka. And let's move on to the changes in the Pokrovsk direction. Regarding assault operations in Pokrovsk, no video materials are yet coming from here, but there is information indicating that Russian assault groups have already entered the outskirts of Pokrovsk. At this point, strikes were carried out on Ukrainian armed forces positions. Clashes are also reported here, and clashes in the town of Leontovichi. Here, assault operations are taking place in this town, and Russian forces are gradually infiltrating, and Russian reconnaissance and sabotage groups are infiltrating Pokrovsk itself. In Pokrovsk, it is reported that preparations are being made either for the withdrawal of Ukrainian forces or for the bringing in of reinforcements. The information has not yet been specified. A lot of unconfirmed information is coming in. Therefore, a lot of information requires additional verification, and we only make changes based on reliable information.